Well, thanks, Dennis, and thanks everybody for coming. And to everybody at Galveston Arts Center, it's been a really great experience working with everybody here, and also really meaningful, I think, for me to show this work for the first time with an organization and a community and a building that knows flooding really well. So that's been really great. So in the exhibition, there are 7 works. There is this room, and then the other room, and then also there's a small piece on the stairway as well. And so 2 events connect both of the work, or all of the works that are in the exhibition. The first is the flooding of my parents' house in Houston during Hurricane Harvey in 2017. And then the second is my grandfather's death in 2015. And coincidentally, both of those events happened on my birthday, which is August 27th. And after 2017, it became, kind of a joke in my family, like, what's going to happen for your birthday this year? But thankfully, the worst thing that's happened since 2017 is it was the first day of school for my nephew. So, in retrospect, my family really should have been more prepared for the flood. In all the storms leading up to Harvey, like my parents lived about a half mile from a creek, and all the storms, and there were quite a few leading up to Harvey, it would like inch a little bit closer and a little bit closer. But really, we still, were not prepared. So the day that it happened, I was living in Dallas at the time, and I was calling my parents. My siblings were calling my parents, and my parents were kind of like, okay, we'll humor you. We'll go get the computer and put it up higher. We'll get the documents. We'll do the things. But finally, we did convince them to pack a bag and leave. And it was about 5 or 10 minutes before it would have been a situation where they would have been, had to have been rescued by boat or, hopefully, God forbid, something worse. But later, my parents told my family this, and we all laugh about this, that the only thing that they decided on their own to save, where they were like, okay, we are going to do this, no one told us to do this, is to take their Hummel collection from a low cabinet, and they moved it up high. So they were like, VHS movies of my childhood. They were like, no, we can pass those over for some small porcelain figurines of German children. Which, my family, it's kind of a joke where we're like, none of us want these things, but they have literally 111 of them or something like that. So, I said that we weren't ready, and it really was it took me, my family, neighbors, friends, a whole construction crew to really put the pieces back together when the flood happened. And at the time, I really was not thinking about art. I did not conceive of this happening sometime in the future, standing here with all of you and be like, I made all this work. It really just was we got to get, myself and everybody else involved was just we need to get, my parents through this experience. But we were also still taking a ton of pictures of a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, everything that's behind me must have ended up in a landfill somewhere, but it kind of lives on in this insurance claim because they were fortunate enough to have insurance. But kind of later, as things settled down, and my parents were fine, and things were starting to come back together, I started to look back at these pictures and kind of process what had happened. And in one picture, it's a picture of a photograph of my great-grandparents that's just kind of in the floodwater. It's destroyed. And you can actually see this picture. There's a kind of Easter egg video in the exhibition. In the other room, there's a framed print, in a pink frame, and there's a small QR code on the print, and that will let you pull up a video that's called You Have a New Memory, and it's kind of a play off of Apple, when your phone is you have a new memory. So I was starting to get these you have a new memory of these flood pictures. So anyway, that you can watch that video on your own device, and it takes you chronologically through all those photographs. So before I was born, my great-grandparents were gone. I didn't know them, but I found this picture, this destroyed picture and lost picture of them really unsettling. not to be too morbid, but it made me think about, the people in my family and the people I knew, or me, just kind of ending up unknown, like on this pile of like ruins. And so the two videos that I made with my parents, there's one here, this is my father's video, and then there's one in the vault, which is my mother's video. I really wanted to capture their portraits, while also kind of coming to terms with some of our differences. Like, we have very different views about climate change and consumerism, for example. And so the video with my mom that's in the vault, it's called My Mom Knows Her Stuff, and she really does. And so what I did is I blindfolded her, and I took a bunch of stuff that survived the flood, and I was like, okay, if you can identify the stuff without looking at it, then you can keep it, but otherwise we're going to get rid of it. And, I kind of thought that she would be good at it. That's kind of why I came up with this idea. But the night before, we did kind of a test run, and she just blew my mind. Like, I put a blindfold on her, and I gave her this little planter, and she touched it, and she was like, oh, this is a planter. It was a little train that so-and-so gave me when your brother was born in the hospital. And my brother is 50 years old. So I was like, this is going to be interesting. So my mom, you'll see in the video, she gets, we shot for about 3 or 4 hours. She got 85% of it right. The other thing, that I learned about her is she's really good at improvising, and she's really funny. So I hope everybody enjoys that video. She really loves, you learn through the video too, she loves things that are commemorated with a past year. So if you get like an ornament, it says like Merry Christmas 2000. She's very I need that. Anything with a year, it's like very, special to her. But my relationship to stuff is more like love-hate, I would say. And in the video, she kind of jokingly tells me, you're heartless, you're not connected to something you made in your childhood. And then she was like, oh, you didn't inherit the gene for collecting. That's, what happened to you. But kind of funnily enough, at the end of the video, we were meant to give away the things that she couldn't identify. And I found myself, I still have them because I couldn't get rid of them, because now they're part of this memory and this experience that we had together making this work. I really worry about what we're forgetting. That's a part of the exhibition as well. My grandfather's video, which is 827XX, is in the other room. It's on a monitor with headphones. And it's about 5 minutes. And I really think about that piece as like the heart of the exhibition. It started with a mini DV tape that survived the flood. So mini DV tapes are from around the 2000s or so. And when I found it, I misremembered it as a conversation that I had with him that I still recall about the war. So my grandfather was a combat infantry soldier in World War II. And I remembered asking him about it, and I remembered him saying to me, why would I want to remember those things? The things I saw and did were awful. And so that's what I thought it was, and I thought that was going to be the piece, like this interview that I had with him. But when I went back in 2020 and I watched it, I asked him about his first memories of television. And I said, do you remember the first time that you saw television? He just says, no, I don't remember. And so that work kind of became me searching for his memories. So in the video, I quote a psychiatrist's report that first diagnosed him with PTSD when he was 90 years old. And it also it quotes from a Houston Chronicle article that he was featured in, talking about the VA and like this backlog of older veterans trying to get benefits. And he was actually in several articles with the Houston Chronicle. And then also some TV news footage of him and an Iraq combat veteran similar story that we lost our copy in the flood. And then I found out in 2020 that the TV station also lost their copy because they were flooded in Harvey. And so the transcript of that interview still lives online, but the video is, for all I can tell, it's lost. So when my grandfather died, he probably had about 2 boxes of stuff. On the other hand, my parents have about 25 boxes of dishes alone, probably. So, between my grandfather's generation and now, my family's material footprint has just exploded. And I don't think that our story is unique at all. And so in this exhibition, I'm really thinking about, what matters, what do we remember, and what do we leave behind, and how do we frame our lives through stuff, stories, and images. And that's it. Thank you so much.
That was Eileen Maxson talking about her latest exhibition, The Word Is Not Lucky, on view at the Galveston Art Center from November 19, 2022 through February 5th, 2023. You can learn more about this exhibition and the Galveston Art Center at galvestonartcenter.org.